Hello, hello, welcome to Mindset to Results. Today, our guest is beautiful Shermin Kruse.
Good
And
morning, Elena. It's a pleasure.
Yes, you're most welcome, and I'm very excited to have this episode today because I know you have so much experience in different fields, more than 20 years practice in law. Also, you studied ancient philosophy, and it resonates with me a lot because I was in Iran and I am very fond of ancient philosophies and poetry and literature. So it is really will be interesting conversation. So let's discuss today the topic which will be interesting for our audience who are business owners and entrepreneurs. Tell us about how ancient theories and knowledge can be implemented in modern leadership and business practice. And of course, we would like to start from speaking about you. Tell us a little bit about you and what is your passionate, what are you passionate about, and why you do what you do.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, audience, for having me as well. And audience, you should know that before we started recording, Elena and I were discussing the fact that she lived in Iran. She did her postgraduate work there, and I am Iranian. So here's this beautiful Ukrainian woman who speaks fluent English. She suddenly started speaking fluent Persian, which was incredible. And it was such a pleasure to be able to connect with you in that way. I was born in Iran, as I mentioned. I was born in 77. We left in 88. We immigrated to Canada. So remember, the revolution occurred in 1979, and it was followed by a protracted war with neighboring Iraq. So I was growing up in the immediate aftermath of the revolution and during the war. And so it was by the time we left in 88, there was maybe up to 6 missile attacks a day into Tehran from neighboring Iraq. So it was a very civilian heavy casualty war. We left in 88. We immigrated, myself, my sisters, and my parents immigrated to Toronto, Canada. And I went to University of Toronto. There I studied philosophy and neuropsychology. And then I decided to pursue my passions in advocacy and business. And so I went to law school, had about a 20-year law practice, helped my husband launch a couple of companies as well along the way. And now I teach. I teach a global transactions class at Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. And I also teach a lot of negotiations classes there as well, and leadership classes. So I do that and I write. My latest book is called Stoic Empathy. And that is what I would love to talk to you about today, leading with Stoic Empathy, especially for the small to mid-size entrepreneur, and how that can help you launch your company and be a better leader and grow your company to the phase and the place where you want it to be. And I would love to talk to you about Stoic Empathy if you'd like to jump into that.
Yes, of course. You learn so many different fields, neuroscience, law, leadership, Stoic teachings, and of course, we are looking forward to learn from you today.
Wonderful. Thank you. What's really great for me is that I finally got to bring all those things together in one work because that's what Stoic Empathy is. It is philosophy, law, advocacy, business, entrepreneurship, leadership, and also backed up by scientific principles. So Stoicism is an ancient philosophy. It was founded in Athens in around maybe 300 BC by a guy named Zeno of Citium. And essentially it teaches that virtue, moral excellence, and rational undertaking is the highest good. And it is the reason for you to live. I mean, this philosophy almost borders on a religious, spiritual way of being, but it really puts reason and self-control among the central values. One thing that's really really misunderstood about Stoicism is that it's about suppressing emotions. It is not. Stoicism is about controlling your emotions, dominating your emotions so they don't dominate you. And it is extremely critical of those who do allow their emotions to control them. Because if your emotions are controlling you, you are not in charge, right? You're allowing some other subcomponent of you to be in charge. So it has this view of emotions, and you can imagine all the ways in which this ties into leadership and operating a business. So it has this view of emotions as they're not just these things that happen to you by accident. They are forces that impact you, obviously, but at the end of the day, you are the master of their domain. And then you can decide at a crisis point, at an inflection point, at a big decision point, in the middle of a heated negotiation, while talking to an unhappy consumer, while terminating an employee, whatever the cases might be, you can decide how you want to lead, and you can take knowledge from your emotions. They can help guide your course, but they don't control it because other things control it as well, such as logic, possibilities, what's best for the business in the long run. Can't always do exactly what we want to do, exactly when we want to do it. And especially when we're interrupted by forces like anger or anxiety or fear in our work as an operator of a business or as an entrepreneur, it can be extremely disruptive into the work that we want to do and the vision that we have.
Yes, yes, it is also interesting that different people can experience different emotions in the same situation. So, in some people, this situation will trigger the emotions, and for some people, not. So, it is not even about those people who do something that causes emotions, but more about the person, why he experienced these emotions. Maybe the situation can tell him about what is going on in his side that he reacts this way.
So your insight is excellent and spot on. And it actually explains why my book is called Stoic Empathy. The first half of the book is about empathy, which I explain it in a cognitive format. The idea behind empathy is simply understanding. Just understanding what the people around you are thinking and feeling. For a second, think about how powerful, by the way, that would be. If you had greater awareness of what the people around you were thinking, if you were practically a mind reader, and you've met these people who are, you've been to the magic shows where they guess what number you're thinking of. I mean, there are people who are mentalists who can have an awareness of their environment in a way that seems almost magical, but isn't. It's really just a series of skills that they've accumulated over time. So the first half of the book is actually teaching you that empathic awareness. How do I elevate that awareness so that I can influence the room by better understanding it? And then the second half of the book is about stoicism. How do I influence myself, my own emotions, so that I can have control over myself? So overall, these two would be components of leadership. And again, we're not talking about empathy in an emotional format. We're talking about it right now, in this instance, in a cognitive format. Your pure awareness. That doesn't mean you don't become emotionally attached to certain issues or certain people, but because of your stoic control, you can decide how much of that is appropriate in a particular context or setting based on what you think is the wisest direction for you, such that if you're negotiating with your wife or your child or your parent or your husband, right, you might take a very different approach than if you're negotiating with a vendor or consumer or even a hostile company trying to take over your corporation. And so you decide how much emotional attachment you form, what type of emotional attachment, but no matter what, your cognitive awareness is heightened. And that is basically what Stoic empathy is. It is the combination of those two factors together to gain power, control, leadership, advance your negotiation skills, and cope with almost everything that life throws your way.
Yes, very interesting. And here is the question we just came from what we discussed now. What is the difference between controlling emotions, so not be reacting, and suppressing emotions? Because it is very two different things, yes, between
Yeah.
suppressing emotions and controlling emotions. Let's speak
Yeah.
about this because this is very important, right? Because we know that if we suppress emotion, it's not good. Yeah, so how to find that flexibility that we don't do first one and do the second one?
Okay, I'd like to give you two examples that are pretty extreme. The first one is sometimes a little bit shocking when I talk about it, but this first example is about getting punched in the face. If you have ever sparred or been a boxing or been in a ring or done martial arts or taekwondo, if you have ever been hit in the face, you know how incredibly disconcerting that is. So I want you to think about this stimuli which comes from an external source. It could be the punch in the face. It's an easy way to think about it because it's physical, but it could also be, of course, deeply emotional. It could be a lot of anger. It could be someone stabbing you in the back, right? And the idea is in response to that punch, how off kilter are you thrown? How off center are you thrown? And as a result of it, how much do you act the way you want to act? Because I'll tell you, if you're a Buddhist monk or if you're a trained boxer, you know exactly how to turn your face at the last minute so that the punch doesn't land at 90% impact, it lands at 10% impact. You know exactly what strategy to undertake next. You know how you want to feel. And when you look at the playback of your match, right, you're not trying to be hard on yourself by being critical. You're just trying to decide what might be a better strategy going forward so that next time when you're receiving the stimuli prior to your response, right? There's a space. And in this space is you. There's a lot of other things in the space. There's your race, your size, your gender, how much money you have, how much power you have in the situation. I'm not denying those. They exist, but so do you, right? You exist. And this is where you exert your control. In between the stimuli, again, think of either a punch or a corporate backstabbing or betrayal and the response, which could be, oh my God, I'm dizzy, there's tears coming out of my eyes, or it could be, hopefully I ducked and got out of the way, but even if I didn't, at least I turned my face so it didn't hurt as bad. But even if I didn't, I've grown so accustomed to the pain that I can continue to think rationally whilst feeling it. That pain is not just about physical pain, right? Emotional pain and all of the things that come with operating a business and being your own boss and being a leader and then balancing that with every other aspect of your life. So that's the way I want you guys to think about it. There's this space between the stimuli and the response. And here's where your control comes in on your emotion. No aspect of this involves suppression. In fact, you could choose to enhance the emotion if you'd like. For instance, let's say the stimuli is the person you love most in the world surprising you with a gift that you really want. And that was the stimuli. And now you need to respond to that, right? The response is at least partially in your control. You could choose in that moment to heighten joy, to heighten gratitude, to heighten appreciation. There's a lot of things that you could choose to heighten. You just want to avoid walking away from that interaction saying, oh, I should have said this, or I should have done that, right? You want to do what you think is the wise thing to do and not what your momentary, instinctual, emotive control is telling you to do.
Yes, yes, it is so interesting. Yes, what you just described. And it was always this, as you said, the space. Yes, and in that space, you can decide, not react,
Yeah,
but you can choose. And also, we have ability to accept or reject. Yes, and also we have ability to give the meaning to the situation.
it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Picture, by the way, that you're a professional soccer player. Do you know how fast that ball comes toward them on the field? And the fact in their brain, because of the amount of experience that they have, it almost slows down for them. It is slower for them than it is for us. So I want you guys to think about how you're going to do that, not with a soccer ball, but with your emotions, with the way in which you respond to the stimuli that are coming to you. How do you expand that space to slow down the game so then you can act more deliberately? Does that mean every time you do exactly what you think is the right thing to do? Of course not. But it does mean with greater practice, you become much better at knowing exactly where to position your body and your head to hit that ball exactly where it needs to go as it comes hurling towards your body. right? You learn how to do that with experience. And when you miss and you watch the replay, it's not so that you can be self-critical, so that you can feel bad about yourself. It's so that because what you can control now, that was past. That's already done. You already missed that ball. What about the next one? How do I move differently? How do I move better? How do I become accustomed to the discomfort of a ball coming at my face, right? How do I become accustomed to the discomfort of anger, anxiety, confrontation, right? How do I do these things so that my body and my nervous system slow things down between the stimuli and the reaction so that I have a greater time to give a responsible and intentional response?
Yes, and this is such a important quality for leaders, yeah, who have to be great leaders for themselves first, because you cannot lead somebody if you cannot lead yourself. And so they have to lead themselves and they have to lead other people. And we know that there are so many people, and everyone has their own characters and their own different features of, yeah, how they behave. And the great leader is someone who can understand what is beyond those words or beyond those actions.
Yeah.
Yes. And in that space, who doesn't react but responds the way which is the best for everyone.
Yes, completely agree with that. That is so, so true. Instead of being a slave to the instincts and the emotions and the forces are coming toward you, you do your best to control what you can. And one of the greatest Stoic virtues is to focus only on what you can control and not on what you cannot control, because you cannot control it, right? And there are always going to be things in your circumstances that you cannot control. You can, for example, not control what the other person in a confrontation is saying to you. You can control what you say back, right? And so that is really this, it's the ancient Stoics call it the dichotomy of control. This idea of trying to understand all of the things that are within my zone of power. That doesn't mean you don't try to expand your zone of power with time. You do. And in fact, empathy is a great way of exercising influence over others. And I'll tell you, I myself, I grew up as a child in Iran, and then I immigrated. I was minority female, didn't speak English, and was broke. And by the time I got to a certain place in my life, I was in some of the biggest boardrooms with some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies in the world, influencing the way they were making decisions. So I gained a lot of power. My situation changed from the time I was little. So it's not constant, but at no time have I had infinite power. At no time have I had the complete ability to control literally everything around me. It just doesn't exist. And I have to have that awareness of what is not in my control. And I have to accept that and focus on what is.
Yes, focus on one step which you can do now. Yes,
Yeah,
and not just think about so many things which is ahead and which you don't know, but focus on one thing which you can do good in this situation, because
yeah.
after that, other things can show up. So let's speak about compassion. Yes, tell us more about the stoicism and compassion for yourself and others.
I love that. So I want to distinguish between compassion and empathy, because compassion is really more of an emotional experience, whereas empathy is more of an awareness experience. So for instance, I can be compassionate towards a child, starving right now on a refugee dirt floor in some camp somewhere. I can feel that compassion right now, right? Empathy would be if I started to gather information and form a greater sense of awareness of the circumstances, not only of that child, but also my own role in the life of that child. How can I make a difference, right? And if I cannot, how much awareness of that situation is important for me to have so that I can be a moral human being? And where can I make a difference, right? And so it's much more active in a lot of ways than compassion. And what's really interesting about empathy, like you said, is you need to also have it for yourself. When you're trying to understand a situation, and listen, we have all made so many mistakes in our lives, right? Especially as small business owners, we've made mistakes. If we don't grow, if we don't learn from our mistakes, then we remain stagnant. So empathy for yourself doesn't mean pretend like everything you do is great and nothing you do is wrong and just feel great about yourself all the time. Empathy for yourself means have an awareness of what your capacity is, what your mistakes were, what you did correctly, and allow yourself the opportunity, like that pro athlete, to just hit the ball again and again and again and again. Get all the coaching you can from the people around you so that you can expand that patience with yourself. This idea that this is me, my complex self, these are the forces that are working on me. I would like to do a better job of self-control next time than I did this time. But this is the reason I lost it. And I have that understanding now, right? So I can utilize that to perform better next time.
Yes, yes, so much is in inner work, yes, and in deeper reflection of the actions and understanding that it is not always in the surface, yes, but if we deep beyond that, we can find some more answers to our questions, and this is what makes true leader when they can not only see or what is in the surface, but what is behind that.
Yes, I love that. I love that. You need to see behind the curtain. And sometimes you find out that the person you thought was the Wizard of Oz was just a little man with a megaphone. And it is this incredible, incredible gift that you can give yourself. And you can do that with yourself. There are a lot of things that you might think are true about you that aren't, or could be improved, or could be truer. And so it's also looking behind the curtain of who you are and what your truth is and what it is that you're hiding, not just from the world, but also from yourself.
Yes, thank you for sharing about this. Are there any other interesting principles of Stoicism that you would like to share, which can be implemented in business and leadership?
Yes. One of the aspects of Stoicism, there's actually two, if you have time really quickly, that I'd like to go over with entrepreneurs is first, what do you expect that things will go wrong, right? Not everything, but some things that's going to happen. Walk into the day with that expectation, right? Delayed payments, vendor errors, unscalable systems, right? They're all coming for you. And what's important is for you to have the preparation for that. Don't catastrophize it. It's not the end of your business. It's not the end of your day. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened. Don't overreact. Observe, assess, act with discipline. Find that power between the stimuli and the response. Chaos will happen if you're an independent business owner, if you're anybody, you're a human being, unless you live in a bubble, right? And so the idea is to then observe the emotions that are coming to you and then to direct them with intention and awareness. So that would be the first sort of practical, like stay calm when things break, don't overreact, and don't catastrophize, which is something that a lot of people do when they are working in leadership. And then the second thing is, and it's something you sort of mentioned a little bit earlier, know yourself better than you know your competitor. Honestly, most businesses under $5 million are still founder driven. That means your emotional state, your ego, your blind spots, they're rippling out into the culture, into the bottom line, right? And if your inner world is chaotic, your business is going to reflect that. So this isn't about being soft. This is about survival, but it's also about emotional awareness. Know yourself. Know if this happens, I'm very likely to react this way. That might be wrong. So I should be aware of that and watch out for that or that blind spot. Or, and these are like really, really important things, especially if it's still a founder-driven small business, because you really don't have a ton of oversight or partners who are helping to keep you in check, which is part of what you love, but then there's the lack of accountability. And that can be a real challenge to small business owners and entrepreneurs. So watch out for those two things.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And the first one also, it made me to think about ability to detach. Yes, detach from current situation and take yourself outside of it.
Okay, I love that a lot. And that is a tool that people use often. What I would love for you to think about is instead of taking yourself outside of the situation, you zoom out, right? Like it's like a picture in a movie, right? Here's the pen, and then you zoom out, and suddenly you see the whole pen.
Mhm.
As long as you zoom out and observe the situation in the context of your life, right? This temporary thing, because you're eventually going to die, right? In the context of your business, this temporary vendor dispute, because you're eventually going to resolve it, right? As long as you do that, it's different from a detachment. What it is you're actually expanding your field of vision. But through doing that, Elena, you're exactly right. By doing that, you're not getting so emotionally attached to just the top part that you can see in this zoom up close. You are now zoomed out. You can see the whole picture. So you have more insight, better awareness, and you're more in touch with the situation, but you're not obsessing over this. Why would you when you can see the whole picture?
Yes, and also I think that it helps to be in the energy of desired outcome. So
Mm,
when you look at the situation, you observe everything what is happening, but you're in energy, not in this situation now. You look at it from desired outcome, like from the future that you're already there, and this is just like experience which you experienced. So in this you can see people who are involving not what they say or do now, but they are like future self as you desire that situation to be, and this also can impact so much. So you're like directing this situation in your mind to that which you want it to be, and you also communicate from that place. It's so
yeah.
understanding also different people perceptions and showing them, oh, this is the way how we can go.
Yeah. And that, what you're talking about now is so fundamental. And I want you guys really, when you think about what Elena just said, to really think of it in terms of military strategy, right? You need to be able to see every contingency. You need to be able to see 7 chess moves ahead, right? And then work backwards. It doesn't work the other way around. That doesn't mean you have to do it all at the same time and be overwhelmed by it. Like Elena said earlier, pick the first move, right? But if you can see 4 or 5 moves ahead, right, or 4 or 5 possibilities ahead, and you can have contingency plans, take your action, act with logic, rationality, and a proportionate response, a response that is proportionate and appropriate to the experience that you're having. And your goal should always be, as Elena said, not just to see a few steps ahead and sort of come backwards, but also to try to be the person in the room with the most amount of control over themselves, because that is all you can do to control the situation. That and your awareness, right? So if you see yourself in that role, and especially as the leader, right? If you see yourself in that role, I am the person in charge. And we've all been there before. We've all been around small children, right? Who are completely helpless and suddenly taking control of our emotional self in order to assist them. We've all done that with our teams. We've all done that with our employees during times of crisis, right? So this is something you know how to do. You've done it before, but now I want you to use it in almost every interaction that you have going forward, particularly the more intense ones.
Yes, and also the feature of true leader is having that vision. Yes, and acting from the vision, because not all people can have big vision. Many people just can see what they have today in front of their eyes. Yes, but the leader, he has to have that further vision, and from that vision see how he can lead this team there who might not see where he is going. Yes, but to sell them this vision, that make them believe, and this is believe what will make them united, because uh, effective team is very different from group of people. Yes, what
Yeah.
makes people team, it is having that vision together. So they, instead of competing, they start creating. Yes, so the leader has to, like, this is how leaders transform group of people with different backgrounds, different characters, to team who start supporting each other, creating together, because they all can see that vision. Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is what leaders initially, every leader or every CEO of his company who also is a leader has to show people why what they do is so important, that they will start seeing that they have to maybe make a change in themselves, yes, to grow with company to their big goals, and see how their personal goals can also be fulfilled when they grow and make this team strong.
Bravo. Exactly right. And if you know about each individual person, you can tailor the way you're inspiring them and the vision you're providing them to the manner that they are most receptive to, right? Some people might really do best with stories. Other people might do best visually. Other people might respond to pure logic. Other people might need some energy in there, right? And different ones need different things. You don't have to change yourself in each situation, but it's important to know how the person will respond, how you want them to respond, and then to behave in a way that maximizes the likelihood of doing that, getting that response.
Yeah, so it really was very interesting to discuss and know this all principles were described in Stoic philosophy.
Thank you so much. The book is called Stoic Empathy. I do hope you pick it up. There is an audiobook, there is a Kindle, and there is a hardcover.
Yeah, it really would be great to read your book. And of course, everybody who listening to this video, you're welcome to find the book. The link will be in description. And thank you so much. It was such a great conversation. I enjoyed every moment of it.
Me too, especially the Persian in the beginning. That was amazing.
Yes, so good. I wish you all the best day, and I'm looking forward to see you again in future for our new conversations.
I would like that very, very much. And if you're ever in Chicago, send me an email and let me know you're in town. I'll take you to an underground bourbon lounge.
Oh, that would be wonderful. So I will put on my plans.
There you go. All right, bye everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Have a great day. Bye bye. See you soon in
Peace.
Chicago. Might be.